Hey guys, so my streaming software is being very strange. Please let me know if this is working at all for you guys. Hey, how you doing? Sounds good? Alright, nice. I tried going live like 3 times. It gave me errors and then for some reason it just worked on third time. Works out, I guess. Alright, cool. So we'll start with like 10 to 20 minutes of questions again, and then we'll get into the full card breakdown. How you guys doing? So, as a fan, what's better to watch? A division with a generational fighter dominating a weak division, or a division with horrible fighters, period? Uh, I mean, generally you want a strong division, in my opinion, but I'd rather at least one good fighter in division than none. So if those are the only options, then yeah, I guess a strong fighter in a weak division. Thoughts on John Silva? Um, I think he'll be fine. It was definitely just a very overly emotional. What would be the word? It was just like it was kind of what I said last week or 2 weeks ago about like some fighters just getting main character syndrome, where they just are like, oh, I can fight however I want, and because I am good, plus I have so much momentum, I'm just gonna win. Like, no, you can get chins. Like, stuff can happen. You need to still be very calm and fight measured. How are you feeling about Alex and Magomed? It's a weird one because I still feel like matchup wise, it favors Alex. The problem is that his last 2 fights have been, in my opinion, extremely bad and not representative at all about like his previous career, and it's definitely shown that he has boxing fundamental problems. So if he doesn't really take measures to improve the boxing, then that's going to be problematic. Uh, I probably will end up picking Ankalaev technically, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alex knocked him out in like one or two. Alex really struggles with southpaws. Yeah, exactly. It is definitely a factor. That being said, I don't know why he's so incapable of adjusting to it. Like his style in kickboxing was almost more conducive to like how you want to fight Ankalaev. But yeah, no, how he's been fighting recently, especially the last 2 fights, I don't love his chances there. How do you think Alex should fight Ankalaev? You really don't want to let Ankalaev like get on the pressure and start making reads through that. He needs to start pushing Ankalaev back, focus a lot more on the jab, because jabs really do work on Ankalaev, and not spam the calf kick. That's the other problem, if you guys saw my rule on that, is that a lot of fighters are like, oh, kicks are working on Ankalaev, so let me just keep throwing kicks. Like, no, you have to disguise the kicks, because once you do it 2 or 3 times, Ankalaev starts adapting to it. So Jan did a good job at throwing the kick differently every single time. So even though he was crippling the calf, he just threw it from so many different angles with so many different setups that Ankalaev never adjusted to it until his calf was completely fried. You think Alex just had an off night, or age is getting to him? I think it's age, too much activity, and just some fundamental issues. I don't think it was really an off night because we saw a lot of the same problems with the Roundtree fight. And the Roundtree fight, well, Roundtree is just not quite that level, and of course he has cardio issues, so it was okay. But it's not like he had like a massive step down from the Roundtree fight, in my opinion. Hey Archie, just wanted to wish you the best of luck on the John Silva questions. Fair enough, thank you. Does Roundtree have any chance against Yuri, or are we putting the house on Yuri? Um, so I do have to say that people will always have a chance against Yuri because of how reckless his style can be. But that being said, I do think that he should have a good chance against Roundtree because he can make things unorthodox and just really push the pace. Even if he is having trouble on the feet for some reason, which I don't expect him to, he should be able to take down Roundtree very easily and finish the fight there if he wants to. Roundtree is like useless off of his back. Did Diego performance change your mind on him? You think he can be champ? Not really. I mean, we saw pretty much the same thing out of Diego, where his footwork and his striking defense were abysmal. His ground game has always been good, so if he can get a fight down, that is always going to be the case. But we did see, even in round 2, when John Silva didn't just completely give up a free takedown for no reason, he was able to defend against the ground stuff fairly easily. So I think that Diego's always going to have a problem with more technical strikers. It's just, yeah, he will always have the one-shot knockout power to change things if they make a mistake, but they're not always going to make a mistake. Thoughts on Vinicius Oliveira being the most technical fighter since Mighty Mouse? I mean, I know you're trolling, but I don't get people's like fascination rather with Vinicius Oliveira, because he just swings like a maniac and like he's able to keep a high pace, so it works in the later rounds. But when he fights a decent fighter, he's just gonna get chinned in round 1. Does your Silva versus Islam take change? You said a week ago you think it makes it easy against Islam. Yeah, so Islam doesn't quite have the same one-punch knockout power that Lopez does. And he also has a lot of like very predictable issues with combos and doesn't have the same chin that Lopez does. So I think it is a bit of an easier matchup. I don't think he's also going to do stupid stuff like throw a spinning kick with 0 setup against Islam. That's like, if he approached it the exact same way he did the Lopez fight, yeah, that might be a problem. I just don't think he would. Hey, Ankit. John throwing that stupid spinning kick pissed me off. Yeah, same. Thoughts on Michael Morales? I mean, he's good, but he definitely needs to develop more. Vinicius versus Saeed was some of the sloppiest brawling I've ever seen in the UFC at lower weight classes. Yeah, agreed. That was really bad, especially because Saeed gassed out in about 2 minutes, and then it was still kind of close. Feel bad for John Silva's next opponent. This loss might have been the best thing for him. He was demanding title shot before. Could be like Brady, who needed the Belal loss to improve. Yeah, I agree. I think that after this loss, he's probably never going to make the mistake of being that over-aggressive again. And it'll be a lot harder for his next opponents to exploit anything. I think the other thing that he probably needs to do, it's funny because I mentioned this last week, that he doesn't have, or 2 weeks ago now, but he doesn't have as much power as people think he does. He's just very precise. I think he actually needs to work a little bit on the power, because if he could add a bit more power to the precision, he would be a lot more effective in my opinion. How would Ulberg and Reyes do against Ankalaev and Alex? I think that Ulberg, after watching the tape, I don't think he's going to do well against them. But I think that Reyes has a chance, because especially against Ankalaev, I think that Reyes, being a southpaw and being someone that like Ankalaev is not going to be able to pressure comfortably, is going to throw off a lot of what Ankalaev wants to do, generally speaking. Is Topuria the best fighter of all time? I don't think so. I would still say that that's probably like, okay, tough question who like the best is. I would say GSP is the greatest, but I don't know if his skills technically hold up to modern. Best is tough, but I don't think it would be Topuria. Reyes being the next champ, definitely. Very possible. Is Cheeto one of the worst title defenses a champion has had? Let me think about that. Honestly, in hindsight, maybe Kaya Zakura. Kaya Zakura is moving up to bantamweight. What do you think? I think he should have never fought at flyweight. The problem with Kaya Zakura is not, in my opinion, the weight. It's just he's been so reliant on his like raw power and speed and attributes and such, that people who are more technical, which he is getting in the UFC now, are always going to be a problem for him. So I honestly thought that Tim Elliott was a good matchup for him. And the fact that he could, and that's mainly because Tim Elliott doesn't have the power to chin him. And now looking at how he managed to lose to Tim Elliott as well, I feel like, okay, we take someone with more power at bantamweight, and they're probably going to chin him. John's power issue is that most of the time he doesn't turn his hips completely, because when he does, that's fair. He doesn't always commit to it, but then sometimes when he does, again, he overextends in weird ways. So there's probably some like mechanics that he needs to get down there. Rank the fighting nerds from least potential to most potential. I still think Kaio has the least potential, not necessarily in terms of being champ because middleweight is weaker, but least potential in like that there's nothing impressive about him. Then I would say maybe Rufy after that, and I've changed my rankings. I used to say Prates after that, but I think that Rufy has such ridiculous glaring holes that it's problematic. Maybe he reworks his entire style to accommodate for it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. Then Prates, he did rework his style to an extent against Neil, and we saw that, so I do have to give him credit for that. And then I still think John Silva has the most potential. Has Dominick's chin been tested since his KOs? Is that narrative overstated? Yeah, he did get caught by Jacoby pretty clean. So I don't think that his chin is fried or anything. That being said, like, okay, this is a fight where it doesn't really matter. If you get caught clean, you're going to get hurt. But I don't think he has a terrible chin. Who is the most skilled fighter of all time? It might be Mighty Mouse. It's tough. Most Rising guys move down a weight class moving to the UFC. Yeah, that's fair. I just don't think the weight class is the real issue with it. Like with Cop, we saw that he definitely evolved going into the UFC. He was a bit looser before that. He tightened things up a little bit, and he still has certain problems, but like he changed his style when he made the jump. We didn't really see it with Azakura. High striking looked awful. Yeah, it didn't look amazing. Thoughts on the alleged Conor return? I think it could happen. I think that the UFC is always going to have an incentive to bring him back. I just don't really care that much. Like, I'll make content about it because it's in the news cycle and such, but it doesn't really matter. I'm very attracted to Valentina Shevchenko. Fair enough, I guess. Thoughts on Beksat versus Topuria? It's a dangerous matchup for Topuria. I'm actually very surprised they put this together so early, because I'm probably going to have to pick Beksat, even though I'm tentative to, given that Topuria is such a good game planner. So I don't know. I'm probably, yeah, as I was saying, I'm probably going to pick Beksat, but it's going to be an interesting fight. I just kind of wish it happened in like a year or 2 years from now. BSD or Charles? On paper, it's a good matchup for Charles. I'd probably pick Charles, but it's one of those fights where even though I was probably going to pick Charles, it's kind of a 50-50. Because if BSD approached it as in, oh, we're just going to stand up the entire fight and not play into any of Charles' strengths, like maybe just go for like pure clinch, try to push Charles back against the fence, stuff like that, there are definitely ways that BSD could win it. Thoughts on, I always blank on how to say his name, but I know who you're talking about. His striking defense sucks, so we'll have to see if he fixes that. He was a really underrated fighter. Okay, in a way, Brendan Allen, because his fight IQ is so bad, people forget he's kind of good. Who's beating Marab? Also, first time on your live. Great videos, man. Thank you. Who's beating Marab? Right now, honestly, I don't think anyone is. If Corey doesn't, and I'm gonna pick Marab against Corey most likely, then I don't think anyone does until age really starts slowing him down. The Corey using data science on Beksat. Yeah, he will try. Maybe it will be enough. I have no idea who that is, Ankit, but fair enough. I think Zombie Jr. is fighting Daniel Santos. Is he good, or was the debut knockout lightning in a bottle thing? From what I've seen, he's solid, but Daniel Santos is a big step up in competition. If I had to pick right now, I'd probably pick Santos, but I'd want to review more tape before I actually made a decision there. How do you think Charles versus Fiziev would have gone? I think there would have been a close rounds 1 to 2, and Charles would have stopped him in round 3. Do you train, or what does your knowledge of MMA come from? Yes, I do train, and I used to train a lot more before I started having medical issues. How do you see Cop versus Tyra/Van going? What are some of the problems in Kai's game you see? So, Cop I don't think has much of a chance against Tyra, because whenever people provide two big threats against Cop, he freezes up. So even though Pantoja, if I remember correctly, didn't even shoot a takedown against Cop, like the threat of the takedown just made it so that Cop didn't do anything. So I see the same thing happening with Tyra, except I do think Tyra would eventually get the takedown and probably sub him. Van is a closer one, but I am going to pick Van. I think Van could pressure him back and kind of try to disrupt his flow, because Cop is very flow-oriented. What are the problems you see in Kai's game? Striking just isn't that technical. Like, it's not terrible, but it's very attribute-based. It's like, okay, I'm fast and powerful, so I'll just do what I need to do to hit you. But if he can't hit you, then it doesn't matter. So that's basically what we saw with Elliot. Elliot was just too elusive for him. So he just needs to clean things up in terms of his technique, in my opinion. I'd love to see a tier list video from you. That's fair. I'll definitely think about doing that. Maybe I'll do it in a stream. Maybe like a Tuesday stream or something like that. Why does John Jones look 10 years younger in UFC 119 than right now? I don't remember what year 197 was, rather. I mean, probably because he was younger, but also his lifestyle isn't exactly helping, I'm sure. Who beats Aspinall? Right now, probably no one. I mean, heavyweight's so terribly weak. Alright, we will start the breakdown as soon as I find... Okay, here we go. So it's crazy that apparently they just could not sell basically any tickets for this event. Apparently half the stadium is still empty and just no one's buying anything. So this is going to be a very dead crowd event, so we'll see how it goes. Starting with Loma Lukeboom versus Alexi Tharnara. So Loma is basically pure Muay Thai as an athlete. She added in takedowns. She's kind of like the Fiziev of WMMA. The thing is that she's tiny. She should be like atom weight if that existed. So if she gets taken down, especially because she's not like a BJJ specialist by any means, she can definitely get held down. If she is able to get you down, though, it is definitely hard for you to get up. I think people are underrating her a little bit because the Estela Nunes fight. Everyone just assumes Estela Nunes sucks. Nunes is not that bad. Especially off her back, she can pose some weird threats, especially if you're not a grappler by trade. And Loma had some problems in that fight, but a lot of it was fight IQ oriented. It was like, oh, going for head and arm throws when she didn't need to, and like ended up getting like taken down or giving her back or weird stuff. Tharnara is more of an attributes-based pure grappler. When she strikes, she has the tendency to throw her chin like straight up, which is not great, but she is powerful, and she is both like seemingly big for the division and willing to just drag you down to the ground repetitively. So I think the math that people are doing for this fight is like, okay, Tharnara just dragged down McCann and subbed her very easily. Loma showed issues being off her back and stuffing takedowns in the previous fight, so therefore Tharnara should win this. The problem I have with that logic here is that Tharnara is just so untested. Like, beating Molly McCann is not really much useful, in my opinion. On the feet also, with her tendency to throw her chin back, I can see her getting tagged and hurt very badly, even though Loma's not like the most powerful in the world. So I am going to start up with picking a pretty large underdog and say that Loma's going to win a 29-28 decision here. Not exactly confident on that by any means, but I don't know why people are so confidently picking someone whose only win is Molly McCann in her retirement fight. How would you see Ngannou versus Aspinall going? It's a tough one. I'd probably pick Aspinall just because he's the larger skill set, though. Last two Perth events sold out in minutes as well. This event sucked. Yeah, this event is just atrocious. How does old Jones and Prime Jones fare against Tom? I still think that both of them beat Tom, even though it's a controversial take, because Tom is just way too predictable. But yeah, I mean, if he came back now and fought Tom as a however many years old man with not being in competition for years, we'll see what happens. Brendo versus Ellison. So Brendo is a kickboxer who came to MMA. he's relatively what you're expecting out of a kickboxer, except he's just going to shoot more takedowns. He's relatively technical. My biggest gripe with him is that he'll land clean shots, but it just seems like he's not transferring his weight properly. So sometimes he doesn't knock you out with shots that it feels like he should. Ellison, on the other hand, is kind of just a brawler. He mixes things up a lot. He's just going to go for us, throw in the pocket, try to take you down, do a bunch of stuff. There's no real rhyme or reason, but it is definitely dangerous. So the question here is, does Brando just get taken down repetitively because his takedown defense is not very tested, to say the least, and Ellison can shoot takedowns? We don't really have much info on either of these fighters. They're both basically new to MMA as a whole. Like, they both have a few fights only. So I'm going to take Brando because he's technically the better fighter. But if he just gets taken down repetitively, I won't be surprised. I'm going to say Brando first round TKO. Is thickness good? We'll get to that. Thoughts on Gabe? Who's that? Since I just joined Michaela Fight Off. Yeah, unfortunately, I know that. Yeah. That's a good reminder. I should skip that one, though. Oh, Stevenson. Okay. I mean, we saw him fight a nobody. It doesn't really say much. We still need to figure out what's going to happen if he has to stay on the feet for like more than 10 seconds, or if he fights someone who knows how to like move back to the fence and stuff a takedown there. Is the biggest problem with American wrestlers going into MMA is that they just have no idea how to deal with the fence. So considering that, we'll have to see how he deals with it when someone knows, okay, I'm just going to circle on the outside and use the fence to stuff your takedowns. Isn't Jan pillow-fisted? I'm not sure where that came from, but I wouldn't say Jan is... I'm assuming you're talking about Piotr Jan. I wouldn't say he's pillow-fisted. He doesn't have the most power in the world, though, by any means. Do you train yourself? Yes, I still do sometimes, even though I use too much more. Might be wrong, but his next fight poster said dirty boxing on it. I scrolled past it pretty fast, but that's dirty boxing. Yeah, that is dirty boxing. I mean, I guess it's good for him to get experience in whatever, but he's also going to fight a can, so I don't know what the point is, to be honest. Thoughts on Ilya calling out Bud? Oh, we'll get to that. Let's blow through some of these prelims because there's not even much data on them to speak of, and then we'll talk about some interesting stuff. So, Michelle Montague versus Luana Carolina. So, what I'm going to say outright about this fight is that Carolina is the better fighter. Her movement is a lot better on the feet. Her defense is a lot better on the feet. She's a lot more technical. She has kicks. She uses range. She uses angles and so on. Michelle Montague has some of the weirdest stand-up defense I've seen in my life, mainly because it doesn't exist at all. Like, she'll stand in a boxing stance, but then repetitively drop her hands to her hips and throw from there. She's powerful. Like, she has natural power, and she's very big for the weight class. So she can hit hard because she's willing to just throw combos without even thinking about defending herself. But she defends with her face, like, quite literally. Like, I'm pretty sure that Carolina is going to have like 70+% striking accuracy in this fight. Michelle Montague is mainly a grappler. All of her wins have come by rear naked choke. Her wrestling is okay. It's not spectacular, but she'll keep trying until she gets you down, and then usually she only needs to get you down once to finish the fight there. Even though Carolina is the much better fighter, I have to go with Montague by submission here, because Carolina doesn't really have anything off her back. So if she gets taken down once, which I have to imagine that she will over the course of 3 rounds, I don't think she's going to be able to escape that position, and I think she probably ends up getting subbed. So I'm going to say Montague by first round rear naked choke. If Carolina maybe just moves on the outside for 3 rounds, maybe she can outpoint to a decision. But Montague, it's a decent first fight for her, even though I don't have the highest long-term hopes for her as of yet, unless she shows like a massive improvement. For those of you who don't know, she was PFL. She didn't really fight anyone particularly good in PFL, but yeah, she's here now, so let's see how it goes. Drink some water. Give me a sec. All right, moving on. Whoever asked about thickness, here we go. So, starting with Josias Musasa. Okay, you guys are going to be able to figure out who I'm picking just based on my description of this fight. Musasa sucks at everything. He should not be in the UFC, in my opinion. I have no idea why they gave him a contract, even if he was able to beat a relatively low-level fighter. Musasa is basically just going to throw the same combo on repeat, which is right hand into lunging hook. Sometimes he'll switch stances like halfway through it, sometimes he won't. And that's basically all he does. Sometimes he just blast kicks with zero setup and like zero positioning at all. But what you're going to see for the most part is that single combo. He is very strong, very attribute focused, and so on. He's able to defend takedowns because of that sometimes. Like, people will get deep on his hips, and then he'll be able to just, like, use his hips to just deny the takedown stuff and move on. His striking defense consists of leaning back, and that is absolutely it. He'll throw his chin up in the air while he leans back, though, so if someone goes through with something, they will hit him. Colby Thickness, on the other hand, I think is a bit underrated because of his short-notice debut against Alessandro Topuria. He's mainly a grappler. Once he gets the fight to the ground, he's very suffocating, and he usually has the cardio to keep shooting takedowns until he can get it there. He did kind of gas out against Topuria, but he did take that fight on short notice and also get rocked really badly in round 1. On the feet, he's not spectacular. He tends to like lunge in with a lot of strikes. I don't expect him to be able to do that much on the feet, but honestly, with how hittable Musasa is, maybe he lands something. I think it'll be relatively even, though, until Colby's able to get him down. And then once it's on the mat, he should be able to end the fight fairly easily, in my opinion. I'm going to say submission. I'm going to say probably arm triangle. But it could easily be a ground and pound TKO. It could be a variety of things. Especially if this fight goes as I expected, I do hope they cut Musasa because they're much more deserving fighters who should be in the UFC right now. Female Bo Nickel. Okay, so I do have to give more respect to Montague than that, because at least she's willing to brawl in the pocket. Like, she's entertaining to watch. Is her stand-up the most skilled? No, but she's much better than Bo Nickel in the entertainment sense. Does Ilya sleep JDM? We'll get to conversations like that after the breakdown. Colby was doing decently well against Topuria, journeyman level potential. Yeah, I mean, we'll see where he goes from here. He's relatively young from what I know, so he has time. That Topuria fight was a close fight I had at 29-28. It was closer than people remember. I think there was an argument he won round 2, if I remember correctly. He did get rocked in round 3, and then in round 1, and then round 3 wasn't relatively close. But it wasn't terrible for a short notice performance against someone he was supposed to get destroyed by. Alessandro didn't fight for 2 years before the Thickness fight. Yeah, he didn't fight, but he's been training his brother nonstop, so it's not like he hasn't been in the gym. Like, it is still his full-time job. Thickness is overrated. I mean, I don't see how he could be overrated at this point, because it seems like people don't rate him at all. Like, he's an underdog against Musasa, who is one of the worst fighters to get into the UFC ever, in my opinion. Super young, Volk said it was an earlier opportunity than he'd like. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I think now that he lost, now that he's been in the gym for a bit after that, he can come back and do much better. Like, Colby lost in a non-embarrassing fashion against someone who was supposed to get absolutely destroyed by. Musasa lost in extremely embarrassing fashion to someone he was supposed to destroy. So I have no idea how Musasa is the favorite now, because he has nothing. But maybe I'll be very wrong and he'll be able to catch Colby with something. We'll see. Alright, this is another, like, whoever loses is probably getting cut fight. Jamie Malarkey is, I guess I would call him, like, kind of a power puncher. He's one of the chinniest fighters in the UFC. He will get rocked by a gust of wind, but he has relatively good range. He does lunge in with strikes. He does hit hard. He's pretty disciplined about what he's going to do. If he's going to kick to the calf a lot, then he's going to do that. If he's going to pressure a lot, he's going to do that. he tends to lunge in with the calf kicks as well as like his hooks and such. So it's leaving the opportunity for people to time and counter that fairly easily, but it does hit relatively hard if it does go through, in all fairness. His defense early is always abysmal. He is able to break people with pace sometimes. That's where like most of his finishes have come from. But in recent years, he's just looked terrible. Like his last win was against, what's his name? Yeah, John McDessie. And I don't know how he was given this decision. I thought he very clearly lost this fight. Then before that, he got chinned by Naimov. Then after that, he got chinned by Haqparast. And it's like, not that these are bad fighters, but like Naimov was coming up a weight class on pretty much no notice. Haqparast isn't exactly known for knocking people out. And then Rufi is what it is, fair enough. But he's just not a good fighter overall. Bedoya is much more durable than Malarkey. The problem is for him is that he has a lot less power as well. He came down from 170. At 170, he did put up a performance where he lost the split decision to Chaos, which made people think he's extremely good. His biggest problem is he doesn't really set things up either. He throws out a lot of volume, he throws a lot of calf kicks, and then he's willing to just like go off in the pocket and such. But he doesn't really typically have the power to put people away, and because he's so predictable with like, oh, I'm just going to throw this over and over and over, if you can adapt and counter, then you can definitely hurt him. That's what happened in the last fight against the British guy, I'm blanking on his name. Against Jai Herbert, yeah. He threw a bunch of calf kicks, and then Herbert was like, okay, if you're just going to keep throwing calf kicks, I'll just put a punch in front of it. So that's how Bedoya tends to get hurt, is he just gets too predictable and then gets countered off of that. Picking a fight with the two of these guys is not easy because neither has shown the ability to go that far. But I will say that Bedoya is a lot tougher, and I have seen some talent from him. So I'm going to say that Bedoya wins this, and I'm going to say he gets the TKO because Malarkey is so chinny. Not high on either of them, obviously. But yeah, Bedoya at least has had moments against decent opponents to the point where it's like, okay, you are a fighter, even if the skills aren't quite there yet. So I'll lean on him getting it done here. Okay, Cam Roston versus Andrei Petrosky. Everyone knows Andrei Petrosky, so we'll start there. Petrosky has a decent jab. He also has a lot of power, but he's very, very slow on the feet. His main goal is to get you down, and then he'll kind of just hold you there. He's not really going to go for that much. He'll throw enough ground and pound that the ref isn't going to stand the fight up, but he's not really going to look to end the fight anymore. He had a few finishes in the beginning of his career, but in the last several years, he's just been, okay, I'm going to get you down, keep it there for as long as I can, and then start over the next round. Petrosky's biggest problem is that because he is so slow, and the fact that his striking is kind of limited to the jab and hard hooks, he tends to get caught by longer, faster strikers who throw over his guard. So with Michel Pereira, basically what we see is Pereira just waited and then just threw one cross basically over the top and landed and put him away. Pereira is, of course, extremely explosive, but Petrosky, in my opinion, is going to have that pattern because of his lack of speed and just general explosiveness. Even a lot of Petrosky's takedowns are kind of waiting for his opponents to come in, and then as they come in, he'll shoot under and then take them down from there. Cam Roston was the recipient of a Torres Finney performance, and then came back and won his next fight in the Contender Series. So Roston is more of a long-distance sniper. He'll throw a lot of kicks out there, and he'll look for the cross over the top. He has a very long reach for the weight class, and he's definitely looking to use it. In this fight, it's again one of the tougher ones to call. I mean, this card has a lot of close fights in terms of odds, not because they're spectacular fights that we don't know which way will go, but it's a question of who shouldn't be in the UFC and who's going to prove that they are, or that they should be in the UFC. I'm going to take Roston to get this done by TKO. I'm picking a lot of underdogs this card. But yeah, I do think Roston can get this done because I do think he has the same attributes and some of the same ability as Michel Pereira, where I think he can land the cross over the top. And then if Petrosky tries to shoot right after that, I think that Roston can punish with the knees and elbows and get Petrosky out of there. So I'm going to say Roston wins by first round TKO, and that we have a very upset-heavy prelims. Is that a Kami tattoo on Petrosky's ribs? Yes, it is. Jamie robbed the Canadian Jared Gordon, yes. Petrosky is allergic to dodging straight punches, yeah. And Petrosky also, I mean, for those of you who don't remember or didn't see, is the only fighter that I can remember. I know there's one other, but I always forget who it was and what happened. But Petrosky is the only one I remember who has knocked himself out on someone's hip before while shooting a takedown. Like, that takes a different level of being chinny. These fights are so basic that I feel like this is going to be the fastest like full card breakdown I've ever done. We're only like 15 minutes in. I pretty much finished, or I literally finished the prelims already. Or sorry, this is the last prelim. We're almost finished with prelims. There we go. The hip of death, Malkoon. Yeah, exactly. How does Thickness do against Wellmaker? That's probably a bad matchup for him because Thickness's striking defense isn't quite evolved enough yet. Maybe, though, he could push Wellmaker back and then shoot under, because Wellmaker does weird things when you make him back up. But I do think it's a bit early for him to have a matchup like that. So Navajo Sterling is another one of those like kickboxer type fighters who decided I'm going to add takedowns to my game and try to use them. He is okay everywhere. I just don't think he's the prospect that people want to pretend he is because of how slow he is. It's like, it's mainly the speed that gets to me. It's like you are open to so much every time you throw because how long it takes you to execute that technique. But in terms of pure technique, he's pretty solid. He's a better kicker than puncher, in my opinion. His punching combos are relatively consistent, like lunging in with lead hook cross or vice versa, cross hook. His counters are all right. He'll mainly go to the lead hook counter. We have a lot of fighters in this card that kind of fight very dependent on the lead hook for some reason. I'm not sure why. But yeah, so Sterling is going to look to counter, look to kick, pull you in, and then counter from there. He will shoot a takedown if he doesn't like how the fight is going or he just wants to change things up. Bellato is an extremely dangerous fighter who wants to push you back, get you against the fence, and then just start like unloading with random stuff. He'll shoot a takedown to get you there. He'll just throw heavy. He'll throw spinning back fist. Once he has you in the pocket, he's just going to throw hooks, uppercuts, cross. Like he'll just spam stuff. He's just looking to basically break you and then knock you out from there. The biggest problem for him is that he sets up absolutely nothing and he has absolutely no head movement. So if you just stay calm and don't get broken by the pressure, you just take your opportunities, counter him, and then you can put him out. The only reason why he has not gotten knocked out twice in the UFC so far is because he's a little bit more durable than his opponents expected. So, both in the Ihor Poteria fight, Ihor was absolutely styling on Bellato, countered him a bunch of times, put him down, almost finished him, tried to finish him, gassed out trying to finish him, and then got finished because of that. But like, Poteria was looking like he was putting on a masterclass compared to Bellato in the striking. Then in the Crute fight, Crute drops him, tries to finish him, can't quite get the finish, and then, of course, is too gassed in rounds 2 and 3 to really get another round or finish the fight. And I think that was also partially because Crute had had his layoff right before that. But Bellato is just so open to being countered, it is kind of wild. So I am going to pick Sterling here. I do think he's going to find the counter. I think he'll kick, and then probably pull Bellato in, and then probably find the counter hook, put him out from there. What does make me a little bit nervous for Sterling is because he is so slow, maybe Bellato is able to just run in and hit him with something. Sterling should win, though. I'm going to say Sterling first round TKO. Hopefully he has a better performance because he was supposed to be like a knockout machine and he's only had decisions in the UFC so far. So I would like him to see him knock out Bellato, get Bellato out of the UFC, and then hopefully actually build a prospect in Sterling. Ilya or Bilal? Ilya. Bro, did you see the video of the altercation Potan and Uncle I've had at the PI yesterday? I did not see the video, actually. Sterling, second round KO. That's very possible. Not gonna lie, Bellato made Craig look like Prime Adesanya he's cooked. That's fair. I have no idea what Bellato was doing in that fight. It was really weird to watch. I hope Bellato pulls another Oscar-worthy performance and gets the lead role in the next Tarantino film. Fair. Okay, so Tom Nolan versus Charlie Campbell. This is actually a very interesting fight. So Tom Nolan is extremely tall and extremely rangy for that weight class. He uses that by throwing a lot of spinning stuff and just diversifying his techniques a lot. He will throw a lot of spinning wheel kicks, a lot of spinning back fists, stuff like that. He's basically trying to be a walking highlight reel. He's also a very competent grappler, to say the least. Good darces, especially with his length. He has reasonable takedowns. He took down and was able to basically win the fight off of the ground and pound and such against Borshev. So he is relatively well-rounded. His biggest problem is that his techniques being unorthodox and wild can sometimes lead him into the pocket where he has basically zero defense. So he got chinned by Moda because of that, and he almost got chinned by that guy who got knocked out by what's his name? I don't even remember this guy's name. Victor Martinez, yeah, who got knocked out by Jordan Levin. Yeah. Um, so yeah, he got dropped against Victor Martinez, which I feel like people do forget. He definitely showed improvements against Borshev. His defense was a lot more fundamentally sound, but he still was open in the pocket, and I think what saved him a lot was Borshev being worried about the takedowns and grappling and such. Charlie Campbell is much more methodical and technical with how he fights. He's going to throw a lot of leg kicks on the outside. Once he feels like you're compromised, he'll start lunging in with stuff. He is decent in the middle range. So when he's trying to close distance, he's pretty good there. But then once he gets into the pocket, he's not great. Like, Trevor Peek made this fight very close because whenever Campbell overextended into the pocket, Trevor Peek would just tear him up there. Even like with the whole hammer fist, overhead hammer fist thing, standing hammer fist. So both of these fighters have a weakness in the pocket, which is why I feel like we are going to see a knockout in the pocket here. It's going to be a very fun fight. We will see the trajectory of each of their careers from this fight, in my opinion, because whoever loses this is going to need to take a massive step down. Whoever wins this, okay, maybe one or two more fights and we're looking at potential rankings. I'm going to pick Nolan, and part of the reason why is I think that he's going to blast a lot of knees, seeing that Campbell can overextend into the pocket and get caught there. And the same way that he was able to catch Martinez with a knee to the body and put him down, I think he will probably catch Campbell with a knee either to the body or to the head and finish the fight from there. Very low confidence pick, but I am going to pick Nolan to get it done in round 1, maybe round 2. Banger fight, yeah. Prime Usman or Ilya. Campbell is very visually nice to watch, but that Trevor Peek fight is pretty damning. Campbell got KO'd by Duncan last time he came in on short notice bout 2. Yeah. So it's weird because you could be like, oh, he was doing really well against Duncan and had him hurt and almost finished him, and then he got clipped and put out. But apparently that's every single Duncan fight now, so we can't even really give Campbell credit for that. I don't know how Duncan manages to almost get knocked out in every single fight he has and then come back. Ilya over Usman, yes. I don't think Usman's striking defense was technical enough. Potential fight of the year. It is possible. I think the fight will end too quickly for that, though. I think that this is a very, very possible first round knockout on either side. I'm leaning the Nolan side. If it somehow went 3 rounds, then yeah, it is a potential fight of the year. Duncan's a fluke artist, fair. I mean, he somehow does it repetitively, though, so Duncan has a second held bar, it seems like it, yeah. I think Usman's wrestling will be too much. Ilya is too competent on the ground for that, in my opinion. Even if Usman is able to get the fight down, he's not going to be able to hold it there, in my opinion, and even has to worry about getting like reversed and subbed off that. It's weird because I don't know where I lie on Ilya now. I definitely did not think much of Ilya to start with. My opinion of him has improved a lot as I've watched more tape on him and seen what he can do. I feel like a lot of people are still underrating him at this point, though, because Ilya's skill set is extremely diverse. I think the fighters who are likely going to beat him are the ones who have the one-shot knockout power and some nuance to set it up. But it's not so in like Usman because he's just not enough of a threat on the feet. Like, yeah, he has a solid jab, but that's nothing that Topuria couldn't game plan around. I think that Topuria may even try to just time his jab and throw the overhand over it. Prime Usman wrestling size and cardio too much, probably. It's possible, but I don't think that he's going to be able to keep up with Ilya's footwork, and if he can't keep up with Ilya's footwork and he can't hold him down on the few potential times he gets him there, I can't see it going well. What changed your mind on Ilya? When I studied him, I saw a lot of the stuff he does in terms of the nuance with his footwork, and that started to sell me on him a bit more. So if you look at how he caught Volk, he didn't catch Volk because of the overhand or the punches. He caught Volk because he had a perfect footwork sequence in which he was able to corral Volk to get pinned against the fence with both his footwork and his punches combined, and then use that to force Volk to walk into his overhand and put him out from there. Then against Holloway, he was able to use Holloway's circling and then anticipate his stance switch and hit him during that stance switch to put him out. So there are little things that Ilya does with the footwork and his timing on his punches that is a lot better than I initially gave it credit for. You think Ilya would be able to scramble against Usman's strength? Yeah, there's such a massive BJJ difference that I think it would make up for the difference in strength. Like, Ilya, people have not seen Ilya off his back if you've just watched UFC stuff, really, except in that short sequence against Mitchell. But he's by no means lost off his back if you watch his pre-UFC fights or even his fight against Salal. Like, Topuria can fight off of his back, and I see a solid chance of him being able to reverse things or even potentially find submissions from there. You don't think the Buckley win at 38 is a good sign Prime Usman could beat Ilya? I mean, there's a very, very big difference between Buckley and Ilya. Buckley kind of just swings things, but is very powerful and has some fight IQ in terms of setting it up, so it works. But Ilya's a completely different level in terms of striking nuance. Which welterweights beat Ilya? I mean, JDM has the best chance. Shavkat also has a chance, but he's probably too hittable. Protez will be the next champ and Ian beats him. That's possible. Who is next for Chandler? I mean, if things go according to what it seems like, it'll probably be McGregor. It's technicality with power, but these welterweights are too big for him. I don't think the size will matter as much as people think. There have been short welterweights who did very well, think Matt Serra, and Topuria is a lot more technical than him. I think JDM low-key gonna beat Islam. He has a solid chance for sure. I would probably, as of right now, I would pick JDM. You think MVP can beat anyone above him at middleweight? Probably not. They'll all just take him down. I mean, okay, Adesanya is not going to take him down, but I think Adesanya is a bit better than him on the feet. I hate this fight because I'm going to have to pick Tafa. So, do I even have to do a description of Tafa? Tafa is technically an okay kickboxer. If you take him anywhere out of his kickboxing realm, he's absolutely useless. Anytime the fight is on the feet, he is dangerous. He likes to go for the counter hook. He will throw it into the overhand and such. Relatively predictable with what he does, but he is fast for a heavyweight, even though he's probably a very overweight middleweight. He's dangerous at all times, but if you game plan around his danger, you can definitely win. Sutherland is kind of an educated brawler type. The difference that sets him apart from being an actual brawler, in my opinion, is the fact that he kicks a lot and he does have some intelligence with it. So the one way that Sutherland wins this fight, in my opinion, is if he just keeps blasting his calf kicks, which he might do. So I don't know if Tafa has better, if Justin Tafa has better calf kick defense than his brother does. Because his brother got absolutely destroyed by calf kicks against De Lima. So if that is a problem for Justin Tafa also, then there's a possibility that Sutherland just keeps blasting those and wins the fight that way. If he knows how to check a calf kick, or Sutherland does not identify this and just strikes with Tafa in a more orthodox manner, then Tafa's going to knock him out in round one, most likely. So yeah, Tafa will get a UFC win again somehow. We are once again picking Tafa, yes, unfortunately. Send Tafa to Randallstown. We all think Tafa wins this fight, yes. Tafa is an eBay version of Mark Hunt, pretty much. I mean, Sutherland can grapple. I mean, he could technically grapple, but it's not high-level grappling. It's not like it's going to be Carl Williams level grappling. And Carl Williams wasn't able to do that much damage on the ground. So I think that even if Sutherland is able to take it down, I mean, maybe he shows something spectacular. It'd be fun. I mean, I'd like this fight to be more interesting than I'm thinking. But I don't think that Sutherland's going to be able to do that much that Tafa's not going to be familiar with. What about Michael Morales? Obviously, Ilya is better, but Morales has like a 7-inch height advantage, huge reach advantage, and uses it well. Michael Morales would be an interesting fight. I would still pick Ilya because the massive footwork advantage, like, it's much bigger in that than between JDM and Ilya. With JDM and Ilya, at least JDM has good footwork also. Morales does not have spectacular footwork. It's not the worst. It's not like there's like terrible fundamental issues, but it's not amazing. So I think the footwork difference would allow Ilya to line something up. But I get what you're saying. It would definitely be an interesting fight. Jai Herbert had an 8-inch reach advantage and a 7-inch height advantage and still got... Yeah, I mean, the height and reach advantage aren't always a benefit if your opponent knows how to smother it properly. I see Justin Tafa's getting his free win in the year, yeah. Sutherland wins this. I mean, it would be interesting. Sutherland can be a heavyweight top 15. In all fairness, the bar for being top 15 at heavyweight is not exactly high. So I wouldn't be the most shocked in the world, but I can't pick Sutherland to win this. I do think he very, very likely gets chinned quite quickly. I probably am going to place a bet on the fight ending in under 60 seconds because I would not be surprised if that happened. Imavov chance against Hamzat. Let's say like 20-25%. He could chin Hamzat if he's able to keep the fight standing long enough. It's just he's probably not going to be able to. Did Sutherland beat anyone in the UFC? Haven't watched tape yet. I don't think so. I'm forgetting, but I don't remember being very impressed with anything he did or anyone who he beat. Do you think JDM might get exposed by a striker one day? He's definitely very good, but his style might be best against grapplers. Well, I mean, he did drop and finish Randy Brown and some other decent strikers. I wouldn't say his style is better against grapplers necessarily, but could a better striker come along? Definitely possible. Sutherland is on gear. Fair. How do you see the rematch between John and Diego? I'd still pick John. I think that John wins that as long as he stays calm. You had to make one matchup that ends in a result that messes with every casual's perception of the sport. What would it be? Like one matchup that ends in... That's a good question. I would say... Pantoja versus Dustin Poirier. Pantoja would sub Poirier within 2 minutes. And it would be hysterical. And it would mess up everyone's perception. Am I crazy for thinking Prata is the worst matchup for JDM at welterweight? You could be right about that. I think I would still favor JDM there, but Protez definitely has his own difficulties. Protez flattens Ilya with a straight punch and goes untouched. I mean, that would be interesting. I just think there's too much of a footwork gap. What other sports do you like? I mainly just watch combat sports. I'll watch NFL sometimes as well, though. Heavyweight is a division where taking an L step is revolutionary. The bars in the basement, yes. How close is 2.5 to being done? Free intro to promo for you here, too. Thank you for giving me the intro to promo. So yes, if you guys are betting on this event, we literally were up 40-something units last week on Strat 2, and that's even if you did not parlay anything and just straight up followed the money lines. So the link is in the description here if you want to sign up for the betting stuff. We're doing extremely well every week. Regarding Strat 2.5, so it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out how much of a step up I'm willing to release. I have potential algorithms that could be put out for Strat 2.5, but what I've learned is that despite Strat 2 being designed in a bit of a hacky manner, in terms of betting profitability, it's very spectacular and hard to top without recreating an entire engine. So I will probably publish something for Strat 2.5 before the event, but it may just be an additional tool, not necessarily like a revolutionary step up by any means. Hamzat versus Nate Diaz. So Hamzat the way he fights now would definitely beat Nate Diaz. The way he fought before, he might gas out and get finished. But if he's willing to just hold Nate down for 5 rounds, yeah, then he's going to win. Gone flattening Aspinall. If that happens, then yes. But I can't pick it happening. You need to put that on YouTube short, fair. Pantoja or Ilya pound for pound, 2 wins. Good question. I'm going to slightly lean Ilya. Sutherland is off gear now, looks fat in the portrait now, so I'm assuming he's going to perform worse than normal. Also, one of his shoulders is higher than the other, so potential injury there. I mean, even if he was on gear, I'd still pick him to lose this, but fair. How do you see Ilya versus John now? So, if John is going to fight with these emotional moments and, like, too much confidence, then I have to favor Ilya because he's not going to ever do that. He's always going to be as disciplined as possible. So I'm going to lean Ilya the way John is fighting right now. But if John takes a step up and shows that in his next fight, which is very, very possible, then I may go back to thinking that John could beat Ilya. Would prefer quality over speed if you had to choose. Yeah, I mean, it's... Okay, so the real reality of it, in my opinion, is that quality is going to come mainly with Strat 3. Strat 2.5, like, we're basically getting very, very small percentages out of what is possible with the current methodologies. And I'm even adding in more methodologies. I'm not even, like, saying I'm using the same methodologies by any means. There's a lot of experimentation that's been going into it. But I don't think we're going to get a massive step up until we do Strat 3. Not going to lie, after watching John versus Diego, I think John beats him like 7 to 8 out of 10 times. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think John probably beats him like 9 out of 10 times. He just chose like the worst path possible there. If you watch any PFL, the recent championship winner, that didn't look ranked UFC welterweight level. Yeah, I did watch that event. I don't consistently watch PFL, but I did watch that one. And yeah, I agree. He did not look ranked UFC welterweight level. My favorite fighter, Pantoja, loses. I won't watch UFC for 6 months. Fair. I think he beats him 6 to 7 times as possible as well. How do you think John should fight? Just calmer, just relax. Like, he doesn't need to fight like he needs to create a constant highlight. Would you consider watching Glory? So far, started watching it, it's fun. Yeah, I would consider it for sure. Alex Magomed rematch. I talked about this more before, but I have to favor Ankalaev probably, but I still think it's a good matchup for Alex, and he could win if he, like, really takes it seriously and works on his boxing. Who should John fight next? That's a tough one, because even though he should technically take a step back in comp, giving a step back in comp is, like, kind of dangerous for the step back in comp. So I actually don't hate the Yair fight if the UFC is willing to make it. I don't think they're going to make it, but it wouldn't be a bad fight. Otherwise, like, I don't know, who's at 145 right now? Let's see. Then Ige, maybe? Ige fight wouldn't be bad. Were you sad when John lost? I wouldn't say sad. I was just kind of annoyed because it was a very big waste of... I don't want to say wasted potential because obviously his career's not over or anything, but it was just stupid. Like, it wasn't a fight that he should have lost, in my opinion. I think Morales is either fighting Gary or Brady. Fair. I think you just went mute. What, you not hear me now? I heard Yair is super difficult to work with. Yeah, I've heard the same. You can hear me? Okay, cool. I was disappointed and angry when John lost. Yeah, that's very valid. It was just so unnecessary. Are you interested in Topuria versus Bexot? I am. I just don't feel like the fight should have happened for a year or two. But all right, I will go ahead for the last few fights, and then we'll go back to questions because most of these are not going to take any time to break down. Neil Magny, you all know who he is. At distance, he's going to just pump out the jab and like push kicks and stuff. He's never going to really commit to strikes. He's just going to basically strike to annoy you. His takedowns aren't spectacular, but his goal is to really get into the clinch. And then from the clinch, he can either drag you down or just like waste minutes and do enough to be winning those minutes. If he's able to get you down, he's going to look to basically lock up a body lock or just get on top and ground and pound from there. So when he gets on top, he does a weird thing where he kind of like wraps his legs under you, which makes it a lot harder to recover the position. But I think that is Magny's greatest strength, is that if he's able to establish a dominant position, it is very difficult to escape. I don't know why he's able to do this and other people aren't. Maybe it's something to do with his reach or like leg reach or something, but it's something I haven't seen many people do. Jake Matthews is well-rounded, which I always complain about, but he's at least leveling up in every category, so it's not like as big a problem as it is for some fighters. His best boxing, in my opinion, is in the pocket. He can strike at range, but it's not as clean as other fighters, which is why why Morales was able to beat him. Morales just kind of kept him at range and then poked from the outside, and Matthews wasn't able to really do anything. Matthews' biggest problem in terms of getting caught is that when he tries to get into the pocket, it's not always the cleanest. He's not always setting it up properly. His pocket boxing itself, though, is pretty spectacular. On the ground, he is very dangerous, which is why it frustrates me that he does not shoot more often. Sometimes he just never shoots in a fight, but his jiu-jitsu is amazing, which is why, in my opinion, he should be shooting at least 2 to 3 times per round. But mainly, we're a lot more likely to get some pocket boxing, and then if he feels like a takedown is just completely open, then he'll go for it. He's a much better submission artist than he is wrestler, so if Magny does make a mistake on the ground, then he will probably try to go for the submission rather than going for the TKO. I think what is going to happen in this fight is that Matthews is going to be able to get on the inside because Magny has no real threat to stop someone from getting on the inside. He'll probably rock Magny in the pocket and then lock up a submission as Magny takes a desperation shot. So even though Matthews hasn't had this in the UFC yet, I'm thinking he may win by guillotine here, because I think that Magny is going to take a really bad desperation shot after being rocked and then just basically immediately tap to the guillotine. If Magny is going to win this, it has to be the same way he always does, which is like, okay, use the fact that Jake wants to fight in the pocket to try to lock up the clinch as quickly as possible from there. I just don't think it's going to work because Jake is a lot more durable than, say, Malott, and he's going to be able to like understand those positions and probably reverse them if he really needs to. John was too confident, he didn't respect Diego at all. Yeah, exactly. Gary has no power, but he's still really good. Yeah, I agree there. Same, John could have easily finished him if he didn't throw that spinning kick. Yeah, exactly. Your audio cut off for a second. We still heard what you said. Okay, got you. Do you like tortas? Is that like a McGregor reference? Chance for a finish from Matthews versus a decision? It's really tough to say. I'm leaning towards a submission. You never know with Matthews because sometimes he seems fully content to just win a decision. Kelvin Gaslam's a torta fair. Crazy, there's a chance that Magny turns into dust during the fight. Fair. Dawson Ilya calling out Bud. I think Bud finishes him in 2 to 3. Ilya's... okay. Maybe Ilya's able to adapt enough to boxing gloves. But yeah, I think realistically his style is made for boxing with MMA gloves. Which is why what I would much rather see is them fight with MMA gloves in boxing. So fight with 4-ounce gloves in a boxing ring with boxing rules. That would be interesting, and Topuria would have a chance to win it, in my opinion. Boxing rules, yeah, Crawford probably wins. Orta's a big girl. Okay. I did not know that was a thing. Fair. All Bud has to do is go southpaw. I mean, I don't think that alone is going to do it, especially if Topuria knows that he's going to have to prep for it, but I get what you mean, yeah. I don't think you know what torta means. It's a new MMA rule. Oh god. I know what Rule 34 is at least, so you're not going to get me that easily. Any athlete you want to see transitioning to MMA? I mean, it would be interesting to see Rodtang in MMA. Have you seen Kelvin Gastelum's girl? He's winning outside the cage. Yeah, valid. I know what you're talking about. Crazy. I wish he just actually put things together, but I don't know. He's insane. I really hope he gets cut now, because otherwise it's going to set a terrible precedent. Alright, so Jack Jenkins is always going to be introduced as the person who like broke two people's knees via leg kicks. His kicks are very strong. He is willing to mix it up also. So if someone is southpaw, he's not just going to abandon the kick or force switch kicks. He will just start throwing to the body or the head. So he's always going to use his rear leg and always fight in orthodox and be fully comfortable with it. With the hands, he's okay. He does have power. His boxing combos are relatively crisp. He doesn't necessarily set them up spectacularly. So his biggest strength is definitely his kicks. And if you are fast enough, you can definitely take him down. I do think his last fight is a bit of an unfair assessment, because it seemed like he got injured very early into the fight, and then from there, who knows how compromised he was or not. So I am going to assume that he's going to be able to maintain his cardio and takedown defense a little better than last fight, but he does definitely have some weakness in the realm of like, okay, if you just blast a double leg, he's not necessarily going to be able to stuff it. Ramon Taveras is basically an extreme budget Conor McGregor. He's always looking for the southpaw cross counter. He will approach and throw the 1-2 from the outside, but mainly he wants you to enter so he can throw it. Once he throws it, if it doesn't land or does land, he'll just start like winging stuff in the pocket and try to end with another cross. He doesn't really have the ability to set it up though. Like he doesn't have like footwork that's going to pin you against the cage and force you to do it. He doesn't have like the forward movement. He basically just has the concept of the McGregor cross with none of what actually made it good. So Davy Grant was able to beat him by just not giving him the opportunity to counter with the cross. He just kicked a lot, stayed on the outside, and Taveras just didn't have anything. I expect it to be more of the same here. Jenkins' kicks are a lot more dangerous than Grant's, and he can definitely replicate the same game plan. Blast kicks to the body a lot, switch it up to the head. I don't think that he's so behind in the boxing that he's just going to get knocked out in like a combo or two. So this should be pretty comfortably Jenkins. Whether it's a TKO or a decision is tougher to say. I'm going to say Jenkins gets a TKO in round 2, maybe round 3, via liver kick. But sometimes he has no urgency to end the fight, so that's not a reliable, like, okay, he's definitely going to get that. What chance do you give RDR against Hamzat? Maybe 5%. Chest was leaking air, crazy stuff. Yeah. I think his lung was leaking air after escaping the triangle attempt or something similar. Yeah, so he was super compromised early, so just I'm not going to judge him too much for that. This is a good bounce back fight for him, though. I think it should be fairly easy, and if he's going to have urgency, it is the chance for him to put up a highlight. I think Ilya would be very easy to figure out in boxing. His shots, while dangerous, are predictable, and on the outside he can easily get picked apart. His bobbing movement will be timed. Yeah, I somewhat agree. I don't think he's going to fight the same in boxing as he does in MMA. But yeah, I don't think he necessarily has the experience to put together a nuanced enough game plan to be the high-level boxer. Do you think something like that affects you permanently? I really could not say. I don't know exactly what happened to him, and my medical knowledge isn't that spectacular. From how he described it, it seemed like it was like just a temporary thing they had to patch up, so I think he'll be okay, but I'm not the best person to answer that question. I really wish a guy like Bud did MMA. That's fair. That would be interesting, but he's a bit too old now. There's a high chance that... Oh, God. Okay. I like Jimmy Crute a lot more than most people do. but having him in a co-main event right now is insane to me, especially when the guy who he's fighting is what, 0-3 in the UFC? 0-2 in the UFC, okay. I don't know how this was a split decision. He got destroyed by Cutelaba, but whatever. But point being, I have no idea how an 0-2 fighter is in a co-main event, and a fighter who has one win in like the past few years is in a co-main event. Jimmy Crute is a good wrestler. Well, okay, he's a very good grappler who is going to use his wrestling without necessarily setting it up spectacular, but he's very strong and he's willing to just keep shooting over and over until he gets you into the position that he likes. The reason why he's kind of held back in the wrestling or doesn't necessarily establish position well enough to hold it is because, again, he's just shooting from nowhere. But he makes it work, he's able to get to his positions, and then usually get a finish later into round 1. He has relatively powerful hands, not incredible boxing skill, but like his right hand is powerful. When people start focusing on the takedowns a bit too much, he can land it. He did knock out Modestus in round 1 many years ago now. So yeah, I mean, he's relatively well-rounded. He could fight anywhere the fight needs him to. And overall solid fighter, needs to put a few things together if he's going to fight up the rankings. Erslan is another one of those fighters where I'm like, you're not very good at anything. Erslan also really loves the lunging left hook, right straight combo. If you enter in, he will try to counter with the left hook. Very predictable. He doesn't really throw anything else. Like, okay, when he's moving forwards, maybe he throws a 1-2. But if you're paying attention to the 1-2, 3-2, and to just counter 3, then you're generally going to be fine. Yeah, so I think Crute has a lot of paths to victory here. I don't think this should be competitive. I think that Crute can stay on the feet for like a minute just to get Erslan's attention with his right hand, then probably take him down and submit him relatively quickly. If Sterling, a kickboxer, is taking you down and controlling you and beating you up on the ground, then I really don't see how Crute isn't going to. I'm actually surprised that Crute is only minus 200. I really thought he would close like minus 400 here. Maybe I'm crazy and missing something because I have seen some people picking Erslan, but I just don't think he's good at anything. Like, Crute should be able to just win this pretty much however he wants. I think RDR versus Allen is going to be a competitive war. We're reminded how good middleweight is, but I got RDR. It really just depends on Allen's fight IQ, in my opinion. The last co-main event wasn't anything better. I don't even remember what it was. What was it? I was kind of shocked how many people were celebrating John Silva's loss, not going to lie. Yeah, it was an interesting thing. I don't know why so many people hate him, but it is what it is. Crute co-main in the Big 25 is dastardly work, yes. People were mainly supporting John's loss because he doesn't hate Israel and he was praying in a church with the flag Israel. I'm so glad they have a ticket. They have a ticket sales problem. Dana probably doesn't even know this event is happening. People will justify this event afterwards as there's a couple of KOs. Yeah, like this is a lower level event to the point that we're going to end up in a lot of KOs, like in the same way we end up with a lot of KOs in the regional scene. And people will be like, oh, it was such a good card entertainment-wise, so it justifies it existing. But it doesn't matter how good it is entertainment-wise if no one cares enough to watch. I don't hate John Silva, I just love my glorious King Diego Lopez, fair enough. I also heard people calling him a Zionist and such. I think people just call anyone they don't like a Zionist at this point. But I could be wrong. I don't really know that whole situation. I don't look into the political side of this stuff. I'm worried about Alex in this rematch. That's fair, yeah. Hey, Oracle, would you rather do a podcast with Dana or Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan, probably. I mean, people hate Silva because he's overly emotional and talks trash to the wrong fighters. Clowns too much in a fight where it gets annoying for most. But, like, is being overly emotional a reason to hate someone? I don't feel like it really makes it anyone else's problem. But, like, everyone has their own opinions. I'm not going to say anyone's wrong for what they think of him. Just don't really personally see it as an issue. KOs don't mean entertainment. Yeah, I agree. And his personality with the barking is starting to get old for a lot of people. I mean, I get if people don't want to be a fan of him. I'm not saying everyone should be necessarily or has to be. It's just weird that people hate him that much. It's like a strange level of hatred, but most of the people hating John don't know how much he's been through. No, I think a lot of people know and just don't care. I mean, I think, how should I phrase this? I think everyone wants to have their self-righteous moments, right? So they're looking for a reason to hate people in general. How does Silva match up against Ayer? I could see Ayer giving him problems with his footwork on the outside. It's a very good fight, in my opinion. I would lean towards Lopez, but it's like, I could see either fighter winning. By no means is it a reason to hate someone. It's just annoying to see a professional fighter cry in every interview. Fair, I just don't get why people see the need to watch the interviews then. Like, at this point, I don't even watch all the post-fight interviews. Sometimes I just mute it and do something else while, like, we're doing that. Imagine Crute in heavyweight. Like, honestly, if he's not having enough success in light heavyweight, he should just move up. Okay, so arguably the only really interesting fight on the card. Ulberg versus Reyes, and then I'll get to the questions you guys asked. So, okay, these fighters are both counter-strikers. Let's get that out of the way because this is going to be a weird fight. There are a lot of ways this fight could go, given that. Ulberg's counters are mainly with hooks. He is obsessed with trying to find the check left hook. Reyes, on the other hand, is more focused on his straight shots. He's, of course, known for the left-hand counter, but he's capable of fighting other things. He's had good uppercuts, he's had good head kicks, and so on. So Reyes has a bit more diversity in his strikes. Ulberg really wants the check left hook. How Ulberg fights really depends on the moment and the fight itself. So some fights he wants to put more pressure, some fights he's waiting for his opponent to come to him, etc. He has decent kicks, he just doesn't use them much, which is kind of weird. He did use them more in his last two fights, but the problem is he doesn't really set up his calf kick, so he'll just throw them really consistently without any setup or nuance, and then just get countered and just never throw it again. So if he was to like set it up with feints or something, he would have a lot more success with that, in my opinion. As the fight goes along and he gets a bit tired, he starts throwing some more straight shots. Then he starts throwing like more 1-2s, sometimes just straight 2s, etc. But expect him to try to get in the pocket and hook spam a lot here, especially if he's able to like find a moment within rounds 1 to 2. If it leaves rounds 1 to 2, expect this fight to get a lot more technical. On Reyes' side, he has shown the ability to fight well on the front foot and the back foot. He, of course, was chasing Jones around for like 15 minutes. Extremely precise counter-striker. Has had the questions about his chin, which I do believe were overblown, because he got knocked out with a spinning elbow from Yuri. I mean, who isn't going to get knocked out by that? He got knocked out by Jan, and he didn't even get fully knocked out. He was just like TKO'd. And again, who's going to take clean shots from Jan like that and knock it KO'd? The only weird one was the Ryan Spann one, but that was also like a power jab that hit the back of the head, so it may have just been a weird instance. Since then, he has taken some big shots. He did get hit hard by Jacoby and seem fine, so I think the chin stuff is okay. Predicting how this fight is going to go is weird for me, because I was looking for a reason to pick Ulberg here. I feel like Ulberg is supposed to win this. He's a little bit younger. He's the up-and-comer. He's been like this would be his what would be the word? His like coming out party, so to speak, if he's able to knock out Reyes here, and would probably get him a title shot pretty soon. But Reyes is faster, for those of you who saw my reel comparing that. Reyes is actually significantly faster. Like, I forget what percentage I came away with in terms of talking about it in the reel, but that was actually kind of underrating it, because that factored in, I think, 1-2s, and they don't really throw many 1-2s, both of them. Most of them most of the time, they just throw like a lone cross, a lone jab, or like in Ulberg's case, hooks and such. So if we take out the 1-2, which was a bad measurement, in my opinion, then Reyes is like 60-some% faster, which is a very big margin, especially at a weight class like this, when one shot can put you out. the fact that Reyes is a southpaw and Ulberg is so reliant on the lead hook is also making me think that Ulberg could struggle here, because the lead hook is just not as good against southpaws. You definitely can land it. It's not useless by any means, but it has to travel further because you have to go above the shoulder now. When you have to do that, it's a lot easier to see and slip. So I kind of have to favor the person who's fighting in their comfortable stance, is faster, and like is going to be stylistically comfortable. Reyes should be able to find the straight shots here. Ulberg is kind of going to have to approach to get into the pocket, because Reyes is not just going to run into the pocket like someone like Volkan might do. So Ulberg is going to have to approach, or he's just going to get picked apart on the outside most likely. I think that Reyes will probably throw a lot more low kicks than usual to force Ulberg to try to get into the pocket with the hooks. And then I see Reyes being able to find the cross and put him out. Of course, if Ulberg is able to get into the pocket perfectly even once, he could potentially finish Reyes. But I have to lean Reyes by first round TKO here, and I think he might make it look far easier than people are expecting. So I've picked a lot of underdogs on this card, but in these like janky cards with a lot of low-level fights, I think that happens. And then, of course, main events, I think people are undervaluing Reyes because of his knockout loss streak. But in my opinion, he's significantly more proven than Ulberg. Like, we saw Reyes fight Jones. We saw Ulberg fight Volkan and not even look spectacular doing it. So yeah, again, I'm going to reiterate, Reyes first round TKO via straight left. Though if Ulberg is able to get in the pocket and win, I won't be shocked. To be honest, I still don't trust Reyes' chin. That's fair. I mean, again, if he gets hit clean by Ulberg, I don't think he's surviving. Hamzat or Reyes? I'm going to take Reyes because his sprawl is so good, especially early in the fight. I think Hamzat would have a lot of problems taking him down. Reyes got some chub for this fight. He's had for the last several fights. I don't love that, but he's made it work, so it is what it is, I guess. Really incredible how Dom has made a comeback from 3 brutal knockouts, and when he had blood clots and was about to die in the hospital. Yeah, agreed. I think Ulberg round 1 KO by head kick. It's possible. Ulberg is not slow, which is Reyes is too fast for the weight class. Yeah, I agree with that. Ulberg is not slow at all, but Reyes is very fast. I joined late. What are your thoughts on Navajo? To sum up that fight, I think that Sterling should win this, but basically I think he's going to be able to pull in Bellato and then counter him probably with the lead hook in the pocket. The biggest problem for Sterling is he's so slow that I also wouldn't be shocked if Bellato was able to just throw a bunch of stuff and catch him with something, but Sterling should win it. So I picked Sterling by first round TKO. I don't know if I can trust Reyes to win a decision if someone isn't giving him a lot of opportunities. I don't know if he'll take a lot of risks opening up because Ulberg can counter over a weak jab. Well, I'm not going to say Reyes is going to win a decision here. I think he's probably going to get a knockout early. And I don't think he even needs to be the one taking the risks, because Ulberg, given his style, is the one who has to get closer. Reyes' physique is so weird, he's built like a worm. Fair. John did do an interview on Israel News, and most likely supports Israel. Most people don't like him because of that. Fair, I guess. What body fat percentage are you? Right now, probably around like 14, maybe 13. Even though he won, Carlos kind of looked lost against Jan, and Jan isn't fast, but has good timing. Reyes has timing and speed. Yeah, it was just not a good look for Ulberg, in my opinion. Sorry if you answered already. I didn't hear this answer. Would you consider watching Glory? Maybe predictions of your own. I'm not sure what the last part meant, but would I consider watching Glory? Yeah, I would definitely consider watching Glory 5-time. Who do you think the most overrated top contender is? Good question. Let's see. Gaethje. I think Ulberg is going to find a way to sneak that head kick over the guard of Reyes, especially since Reyes is a southpaw. I mean, I just haven't seen him really do something like that well before. I mean, he did do it a long time ago against Kennedy, I guess. But even then, he ended up losing that fight, and it was like kind of a one-time thing that Kennedy just wasn't expecting. DDP or Reyes? I'm probably going to pick Reyes. What is your exact address and your government name? I can't make it that easy. Usman or Bilal? That's a tough one. I did not like how Usman looked against Buckley. Even though people were talking about his ground dominance, which, fair, looked good. On the feet, he looked so lost. Like, he did not want to engage at all. I might have to pick Bilal to win that on the feet. Is Gaethje really overrated? I don't think there's anyone saying he's a legit contender at this point in his career. I mean, a lot of people still think he's a legitimate top 5 lightweight. I really can't see it. Okay, so I just tested the delay by switching back to this. There's like a 10-second delay right now. I don't know what's happening. I think it might be because Buckley is really powerful. Yes, but Buckley also doesn't have the most nuance on the feet. So it's not like Usman had to worry about like getting baited into something and getting caught. He's ranked high. Yeah, I mean, he technically is. I think Max would be champ at 155. Ilya wasn't there. That's very possible. By the way, Yuri or Reyes? I'd probably pick Yuri again. But not confidently. Usman looked so slow on the feet. Yes, he did. If Gaethje were to crash Ilya and put him away, I'd be very sad. I'd just be impressed at that point because that should not happen. Like I'd give Ilya a 99% chance of beating Gaethje. Buckley is a great athlete, but he has to be the most inaccurate fighter I've ever seen. Usman is literally standing in front of him flat, and Buckley just wings and whips an uppercut by a mile. Fair. Yuri or DDP? I'd probably pick DDP there to be a bit more technical. Ilya versus Gaethje, accurate prediction, yeah. I mean, Ilya should finish that within a minute, however he wants to. I think Buckley needs to go to an actual MMA gym. Yeah, 100%. I doubt this fight ever happens, but who would you take at 155, Holloway or Diego Lopez? Holloway. I think that Holloway's not going to make a massive mistake like John Silva did, and his striking defense is just way superior. Who has the best chance of beating Ilya at 155? Islam doesn't count. Honestly, I don't know if anyone at 155 is like a viable candidate. Like, I wouldn't pick anyone ranked to really have a good chance against him right now. Do you think Ilya's style can work in a southpaw stance? Not exactly, but you could have a similar style, but it would definitely have to be adapted. By the way, what's your early thoughts on Yuri versus Khalil? I got Yuri by flying knee into a straight right hand. Yeah, I do think that Yuri should be able to catch him with something crazy just by making it a high-paced, chaotic fight. When I become UFC champion, I'll shout you out. Appreciate it. Mighty Mouse or Ilya pound for pound, who wins? Tough one again. I think it's possible to catch Mighty Mouse, whereas I don't think Mighty Mouse really had the ability to put away Ilya. So I'm gonna say that Mighty Mouse is winning until he gets caught and loses. Who's your GOAT? GSP probably. What do you see being the next future trend in MMA in the next 2 years? Data science, like optimizing training and how you prep for opponents. Mighty was low-key chinny in his prime. He got dropped a lot. Yeah, he kind of was. And against someone like Ilya, obviously that's not going to go well unless like you're literally perfect. What's Ilya's biggest weakness? The fact that he's very open when he's throwing his right. It's funny, you can kind of tell like how much people care or don't care about an event with how many like views the content about it is getting. And for this event, this main event, my Ulberg video got like the worst views I've gotten on a main event video in probably a year or more. My top 5 all-time list is Pantoja, Islam, Otan, Yuri, Yoryan. In terms of preference, I mean, in terms of GOAT status, I don't think that really works, but in preference, fair enough. Justin versus Patty is so interesting to me because Patty has negative boxing and Justin has even poorer BJJ. That's fair. It will be an interesting one. A week off as well, people falling off the UFC cycle. Yeah, true. Crazy that there's literally no real contenders in featherweight, lightweight, or welterweight. Yeah, I mean, UFC, like everyone, or not everyone, a lot of people want to push back against this, but I think UFC is really going downhill quickly because right now there are so few things that interest me in UFC. Like there aren't that many matchups I'm crazy invested in. There are like no prospects I'm crazy invested in now. Like if you want to say John Silva, sure, I'm still invested in him, but there are very few. And it's strange because I know that fighters are generally getting better. So we should have a lot of prospects, but they're just not pushing the right people, getting them the right fights. They're not really building them up personality wise either. Like I don't know who these fighters are unless I really like search for information on them. Like, UFC hype is really dying quickly. How do you see Alex versus Ankalaev going? I got Ankalaev by round 1 KO. It's possible. I am picking Ankalaev as well, most likely, but it's a tough one to pick. So I still feel like stylistically it's a good matchup for Alex. But yeah, I do think Ankalaev probably gets a KO this time. Did you notice that Ilya likes to jab when people calf kick him to get them off balance? It's a dangerous proposition. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. With how predictable it is, though, I don't. Maybe a good striker could expose that at some point. Just half asleep until Islam versus JDM happens. Yeah, valid. I don't even like Islam, but I can't deny he's chasing greatness and is a killer. Fair. All of the Makachev fans who said Arman didn't have a chance are suddenly saying that Ilya will be dominated by Arman. The fan base shifts so fast. It's hysterical. Yeah, that's true. Who beats Ilya pound for pound? Um. hmm. I don't know if anyone does right now. And that's not like. I feel weird saying this because Ilya has very clear weaknesses in his game, in my opinion. But there are not many fighters currently who I'd trust to exploit that. The UFC is becoming stale in their future matchmaking and the rise of contenders prospects just being way too inconsistent. Even the stars they have just aren't the ones they need right now. Yeah, I agree with that. Are most fans dumb or just sheep because their opinions shift every week? Both, to be honest. Why does every time when Islam goes on the front foot, he looks bad? Because it's just not his style. He's a counter-striker now. Tanker Jake. Tank better knock him out. So I want to give a quick update. Oh, so, okay. Before I forget, let's do one more shout out for the betting service. If you guys are betting this week, and you're not part of the service so far, I know a fair amount of you are already, but if you are not, consider joining. We literally did 40 units in profit off the base strategy last week, which didn't even include parlays and methods or anything like that. Link is near the end of the bio. Feel free to DM me with questions also if you have any. Now, regarding the status update I was talking about. So, after I'm done with Strat 2.5, originally what I was going to do is finish up the application I'm working on to help fighters training and such. However, what I'm thinking is that I really hate releasing products that I'm not really, really confident in. Like, even if it's valuable, I do want it to be packaged properly. And while I do believe that the application is valuable, I feel like the user experience could be a little bit better. And I do want to make a pro mode for it also. The pro mode having like the ability to measure and optimize a lot more stuff, like including connecting to like Fitbits and other devices that you could track your heart rate, sleep, and optimize those things, and then use that as understanding for context for other stuff that you're doing in your training. So what I'm considering doing, and it's not fully locked yet by any means, is trying to hire to get this done. So I need to find a development studio that I'm actually comfortable with, like producing something at the quality I want. And if I can do that, I might put a lot of my savings towards that, and then just focus on content while that's being finished. Still a lot up in the air, because it's very difficult to find a studio that you can trust to build stuff out. And beyond that, like, I don't know what their pricing will be. I'll have to do a lot of negotiation in that sense and figure out what's happening. Just wanted to tell you guys what I'm thinking. So if it does go according to plan, then the ideal would be that I would start doing like one YouTube video a week and more reels a week, so that I can, well, since now, hypothetically, I would not have to focus on the development side. But we'll see what happens. Which fighter do you think should just retire? Yeah, probably Izzy, as Vince said. Would you give a chance for Max Consilia at 155? Not really, to be honest. I was so invested in John, was so sad to see him rush in round 2. He was clearly pulling away and had no reason to lunge into the pocket. In my opinion, he proved why he was the favorite. Yeah, I agree with you. And I still am invested in him. I think he'll be better, but yeah, it was an unnecessary loss. Breakdown could be versus Ilya. It really just depends on if Ilya could stuff the first takedowns. Because if he stuffs the first sequence, then he's not going to be bout. If he's not, then he's probably just going to get drained until he gets finished, or lose a very anticlimactic decision. Good luck with your plans, Oracle. Don't forget to make that Pentosius supping tested short. That'll do numbers. Fair. Thank you. Is it frustrating as an analyst to watch fighters, especially the highest level in the UFC, have such clear weaknesses that can be easily prepared for and they just get away with it and be glazed for it? Yes, it is very frustrating. Face reveal now. We'll have to get to a much higher milestone before I'll consider that one. Why do people ask the same questions every stream? I think that people miss a stream and then don't know what other people asked in the previous stream and so on, so that ends up happening. Why isn't there an option to super chat in your streams? Okay, so I have not monetized this YouTube channel. Now, the reason for that is because UFC is a lot more lenient when something is not monetized when it comes to copyright. And I do want the ability to use videos of at least a few seconds in my videos. Clips, I should say, of at least a few seconds in my videos. So I'm not positive if it's worth me monetizing the YouTube channel. What I may just add is like, if I end up streaming more often, I may add like a regular like Streamlabs donation link or something like that, so that if people really want to, they can, and I'll like rig it up so that it sends proper notifications on the stream and such. But I'm not sure if I will monetize this channel like formally or not. Please excuse my lack of knowledge, but what is a unit / how many do you normally put on a card? So a unit is, okay, the way I personally do units is that one unit is 1% of your current budget. Everyone does units a little bit differently. Some people do it as a flat amount. So for example, one unit could equal $10. Some people do it as like 2%. So one unit is 2% of their budget. It just really depends what they're comfortable with and how they treat it. But essentially, it's just a way of standardizing things, so we're not speaking in dollars because everyone's budget is different. How many do I normally put on events? I usually end up putting 20 to 30, and if I'm very confident in an event, maybe 40, but I try to spread it out a lot so I'm not overly affected by one fight. Umar or Mario Bautista? Probably Umar, but I'd be excited if Bautista won. It's a good idea, thanks. If Sean Brady was to face Shavkat, I could see Shavkat finishing him in the clinch via knees. American grapplers have soft bodies. It's possible. Brady has improved a lot, though, in my opinion. Who is the biggest fraud at the top of a division that you want to see most get exposed, not because of dislike, but because you want to see someone finally get exposed for their overrated ability? Let's see. Okay, I hate to say this, but probably Diego Lopez. Like, I really like Diego Lopez's personality, and I enjoy his fighting style, but he's not that level, like, technically speaking. Because his striking defense just doesn't exist, his footwork doesn't exist. It's like, I think it says more about the featherweight division and the matchups that he got, that he was able to get this far, rather than his personal skill, in my opinion. John or Pico? John would probably catch him as he's coming in, so I'm going to say John. Do you think Lopez's chin will ever get checked? Yeah, I do. Lopez has gotten knocked out before. It was a while ago, but he definitely can be knocked out. Lopez is dangerous, but he's really just a Walmart Charles to me. Yeah, I agree with that. Why do you think Leon fights in a non-aggressive manner even though he hasn't been knocked out in the UFC? I honestly don't know. Like, I really do not know at all. I agree, but Diego's wrestling does look a bit better now. I don't even know if it looks better, because he was basically just handed a takedown. Like, yes, if you give a good grappler full mount, they're going to be able to do stuff with the position. But I haven't seen him actually have the ability to get a takedown without it being literally given to him. The Moreno-Tyra fight is going to kill me because I'm such a fan of Moreno, but I also want to see Tyra get the belt. Yeah, same. Like, Moreno is my favorite flyweight of all time, and Tyra's probably my second favorite flyweight. So, yeah. Thank you for your explanation. Sorry for asking, because I'm sure you get the question all the time. All day, but do you have different tiers for your service? What is the payment for that? No worries. Don't worry. Don't worry about asking questions. You always can. What are the different tiers? It's just one tier. It's just $25 a month for access to everything. I can kind of see Gamrot unironically subbing Charles in the later rounds of their fight. I don't think it will happen because Gamrot gets progressively less dangerous as the fight goes along, and he's not even that dangerous early, to say the least. Have you ever been in a live event? Not a UFC one, unfortunately. What's Quinlan Solkill's limit? Top 10 potential? I don't think he'll ever get ranked, to be honest. I can't understand how Leon ever became champ looking back at his career. His run to the title was very suspect. Although he's performed well against Usman in third fight, he's so non-threatening. Yeah, I think he did get some lucky matchups. Like, I don't think people realized how much RDA regressed with his age. Prime Connor Ilya. Again, I lean Connor, but it's hard to say. Lopez showed some legitimate boxing instead of the usual winging hooks and uppercuts in the pocket. Did he, though? Because I'll have to rewatch the fight. I have watched it twice now, both live and then one time after. But I don't remember Lopez really landing anything on the feet until, like, the elbow. Leon has a sick clinch game but never forces it. Yeah, fair. Lopez literally just stood in front of John and did nothing. Yeah, that's what I felt like. What chance do you give RDR subbing Allen in later rounds? It's very possible. I don't think it will happen, but like, let's say 20%. At this point, they should give Gamrot the BMF belt. Only contenders keen to fight anytime, anywhere. Yeah, I agree. I actually do agree with that. Even though I don't think Gamrot has the best chance against Oliveira, if he does beat Oliveira, they should give him the title shot, in my opinion. Lopez was landing kicks. He did land a few calf kicks, yeah, but then he definitely stopped being able to once Sean adapted to it. Do you agree with Joe Rogan that MMA fights should happen in a big space, like a basketball court-sized mat, to eliminate the use of the cage in just one 15-minute round? No, I don't. First of all, that would be like visually terrible for fans. Like, there would be no way to make that look good and entertaining. While, like, I understand the concept of let's not have cage fighting, it's just not feasible. And one 15-minute round would be really boring because we would end up settling in one position and staying there for like 8 minutes. That's about all I remember. Fair? He did duck under a few punches. Fair, but I mean, like, it's not ducking under a few punches there when he was like down like 30 to like 2 punches, I think, at one point in that round. Is just not spectacular in my opinion. Lopez started talking about he showed John the high level, which is so false. Yeah, it's one of those low probability outcomes where it's like, okay, you got the win, but how many times out of 10 do you really get that? Imagine it was a law fight, yeah. Wellmaker could cold font, maybe. That would be fun to watch. I don't understand how Gamera's in the top 10 in my opinion. Besides his really good wrestling and somewhat improved boxing outside, he's super non-threatening. Lacks durability and is very mediocre to me. It's because he's able to shoot from such weird positions and still finish the takedowns. Like Khabib used to dive at people's legs from really far out, but he would have to like chain it into like 3 different takedowns, get you against the fence, then transition like 2 more times, and then get you down. Gamrot just dives at your leg and then somehow finds a way to finish the takedown. What is the perfect fighter to beat JDM? I think it would be a long-rangey striker. I think it's someone who's able to establish a grappling threat, but then can really has enough power on the feet to use the fact that JDM will drop his hands against a grappler. Do you think that Arman deserves his title shot for beating the Marauder Benson Henderson? Seriously, this is getting ridiculous. Yeah, I think they should do Arman versus what's his name? I think they should do Arman versus Dawson, and if Arman doesn't want to take it, just cut him. Vito Vera is a nightmare matchup for Wellmaker. I mean, we have to see how Wellmaker can progress or not, because he definitely needs to take a massive step up. Reyes versus Tom. I have Reyes. Arman versus Holloway would be such a banger. I agree, but at this point, Arman doesn't deserve it. You're being brutal on Arman. Well, I mean, okay, so here's what we have with Arman. Arman wins the split decision against Oliveira, right? Whichever side you think should have won, it was a close fight. Live, I thought Arman won it. I watched it back, and then I thought Oliveira won it. But whatever the case, split decision kind of makes sense. It was a close fight. He gets the chance to fight for the title, even though, in my opinion, it should have been a 5-round title eliminator rematch. But whatever, he gets the chance to fight for the title. Pulls out of that. Okay, that's already bad. You're supposed to take one more fight to fight for the title again. He's like, okay, I'll fight anyone. I'm going to fight for the title. Fair enough. He gets offered Gamrot. Perfect opportunity, right? A fight against not the most threatening fighter in the world, against someone who has a loss against on his record. So he could avenge his loss, not really have a massive threat of getting finished, and get the title shot all at the same time. And then just turns down Gamrot. He's like, no, I'm not fighting Gamrot. If you're scared to fight Gamrot, you're not getting close to a title. Like, you're not even getting a contender fight, in my opinion. Like, you need to fight far down the rankings or leave the UFC. How would you rate Holloway's footwork? It's pretty solid. It's definitely one of the highest levels in the UFC right now. As an Arman fan, it hurts me seeing him not fight. I'd favor him to beat mostly everybody in the top 15. Yeah, I mean, he's a good fighter. He's just apparently a coward. I think Usman versus Bilal depends entirely on Usman's confidence stand-up. He has more power and could give Bilal a lot of problems. If he can't let his hands go, he'll just get outpointed. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that if we see, like, closer to prime Usman in terms of his hands, then he'll definitely be fine. He could just jab Bilal for 5 rounds if he had to. But if we see what we saw last fight, it's not going to look good for him. I feel so bad for Luque getting a switch up to Joel Alvarez. Yeah, they're just trying to, like, get Luque consecutively executed. It's just give Luque like a warm-up fight or something, a step-down fight. This is the inconsistent part of the UFC. How does Mokaev get cut? But Arman, through all of this, is still at the top of doing whatever he wants. I think it's because, first of all, Mokaev had a much smaller fan base, so when a fighter gets a fan base, it's a lot easier for them to do stupid things and the UFC won't do anything about it. Mokaev had a much smaller fan base, and, like, he also, it was coming off the back of the super boring fight, so people already didn't like him, and they had the matchmaker controversy with that. Or, sorry, they had the matchmaker controversy with that, and of course you had the brawl with, like, Kopp before the fight. So there's just so many things, along with him just not being a consequential fighter at all, that it was easy to get rid of him. I think Max stuffs the takedowns to get back up immediately and styles an arm into a 49-46 decision. Very possible. Can you go through your picks again? Yeah, sure. So, I picked Loma to win a decision, Brendo to win by first round TKO, Montague to win by first round submission, Thickness to win by first round submission, Bedoya to win by, I forget what round I said, TKO some round. Ralston TKO against Petrosky, Sterling TKO against Bellato, Nolan TKO against Campbell, Tafa TKO against Sutherland, Matthews submission against Magny, Jenkins TKO against Taveras, Crute submission against Erslan, and Reyes TKO against Ulberg. Joel Alvarez's grappling is terrible. His grappling is great. It's his wrestling that's terrible. Does Tom versus Gon go into round 2? Probably not. Remember that one time they actually tried to match up Pratas and Nick Diaz? Yeah, that was so bad. You think Ngannou is a slimy person? I don't like Ngannou. I've never liked him. And I think that what we've seen over the last few years has definitely shown a lot of fans what I've felt about him since the beginning. But if Ilya had body kicks and head kicks, would his style be more dangerous? Maybe, but I think that what Ilya does very well is keep things so simple that he's focusing on exactly the optimal thing to do based on the tools he uses. So I understand why he doesn't. After BSD went over Rufy and his improvements with Ott, how would you reconsider the Alvarez matchup? I think BSD could win. Alvarez takedown defense isn't that good, and he could get overwhelmed. Okay, so based on the Rufy fight, I would still probably pick Alvarez, and the reason for that being is that BSD had some trouble establishing good control over the ground and landing ground and pounds. And you're not going to submit Joel Alvarez in all likelihood. So I think he would have had problems because Alvarez would have probably kept getting up or threatening subs off his back and could have either won later into the fight or gotten a decision. However, if they were to reschedule the fight, seeing how rapidly he's been improving with Ott, I do think he would have a solid chance to win, yes. How far do you see Joel going now that he's at welterweight? Do you think he needed the frame advantage? We will have to see how he performs against Luque, but I do think he will at a minimum get ranked. I think he'll probably be top 10 at some point. Ilya said in an interview that he doesn't kick because he never had good kicking ability. Yeah, that's fair. If you watch Ilya sparring, he throws everything and it's dynamic. Fair. Any MMA YouTuber, Instagram pages, etc. you dislike because of any reason? Yes. So what's it called? On Instagram, there's that page, I think Fight Lab Official or something like that. I despise that page because half of what he says is just wrong, and like the other half is so obvious that I don't know what it's even explaining. But he gets away with it because his graphics are so good. Like the quality, his production value is incredible. His information is absolutely useless. Rufy doesn't trade with you like Alvarez. True, but Alvarez also has better like defense off of his back. Gaethje really fumbled the title shot. I think this is the most vulnerable version of Charles, and he would KO him, landing half the shots he landed in the first fight. Yeah, I mean, I think Charles would probably just shoot immediately against Gaethje now, but I do get what you're saying. In Gary or Islam, who wins? That's a tough one. I'm going to say Islam, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Gary won. BSD will maul Alvarez on the ground. Alvarez is overrated. It's possible, but he would need adjustments with how he established control. Who's more disgraceful, Yair or Armin? Yair literally goes on camera ducking fights and fighting once a year on top of that. Okay, I will say this, right? At least Yair never, to my knowledge, pulled out of a fight. Eliminate the competition, yeah. Fight Lab caters to a very casual audience. Yes, that is true. I was going to ask you about Fight Lab. He had some decent takes, but his production does carry a lot, and his research is terrible. Yeah, exactly. One thing that really pissed me off is that when he was talking about the Chimaev DDP fight, right? He was saying that if Chimaev was going to sub DDP, it would be with like a Darce when DDP is trying to get up. And everyone got blasted. That video did super well in the algorithm. And I'm not the best grappler in the world, right? Like, I'm a striker. I learned grappling to be well-rounded and be able to be defensively successful. Even I know that if you shoot an underhook, you cannot get Darced. Like, even I know with certainty that you cannot get Darced in that position. And he basically just ignored the fact that in the video frame he showed, DDP had an underhook, and there was no way of him getting Darced there. Yair losing to Ortega was embarrassing. Yes, it was. Challenge Fight Lab to an MMA fight to the death. Fair. Have a good day, Sarah. I've got to get going. Thanks for live stream, per usual. You too. Have a good day. Thank you for coming. Is competing out of the equation for you, or is it just on hold? It's probably out of the equation. If anything, I would probably corner for people now. I don't think I could fight again. If I was going to, it would probably have to be for like a... How would I put it? It'd probably have to be either open weight or I would have to fight up a weight class because I don't think my body could handle cutting weight anymore. And it would have to be for a very good reason. Yon fans are actually insane. They said he only goes to decision because he wants to show a technical ability of the rounds. I think some Chimaev fans said that also, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? Drakus doesn't have enough left on Earth to cover the skill gap between him and Hamzat on the grounds. That is somewhat true, but the reality also is that, yeah, while I get what you're saying, and I don't fully disagree, I think it's always going to be a terrible matchup for DDP, seeing what we saw there. If he made a few key adjustments, it would make things a lot easier. He doesn't have to catch up, he just has to be able to negate a certain percentage of it. Trained with anyone in the UFC? Yes, I technically have before, but I don't like telling stories about like training room stuff, if you get what I mean. Featherweight has power, he spares the opponent just decisions. There's too many illegitimate analysts in the MMA community because MMA right now is just very accessible for casual audiences, and it seems very easy to just clip MMA and just have aggressive takes. Yeah, that is fair. When I become UFC champion, I'll ask Dana for more pay. Fair. Do you think the best background for MMA is Combat Sambo? No, I don't think so. I think that Combat Sambo worked because people were not used to it. When you train for a different style, which was like more Brazilian styles or American styles or like even Thai styles, right? Then when Sambo comes in, for a while it's going to be weird to deal with because you're not used to it. But now people are adapting and Sambo doesn't have a crazy win rate anymore. Top 15? Okay, I will say this. I have trained with a champion before. UFC Paramount deal will make bonuses 75,000. Well, at least it's a step up. Best background for MMA is MMA. Okay, I used to think that. I am starting to think it is better to have a singular base and then transition to MMA. Because what I'm seeing with a lot of these holistic MMA guys is they have no like real game plan because they're not specialists at anything. They fall into that like bad, well-rounded category that I've talked about before. And it just becomes like, okay, they don't really have anything they're good at. Opinion on judges being biased in home fighters' country. I don't think they're purposely biased. I think crowd biases them. I do think it ends up that they're biased, but I don't think it's intentional. Why are top fighters having no answers to a body lock in today's? I assume you mean in today's MMA. Just bad prep. We're talking to Wakely's husband, aren't we? I cannot speak Mandarin like that. At one point, I understood some Mandarin, but that was mainly just because I had enough friends who spoke it. I train MMA and I have good striking, but where I train, I'm unable to get good grappling coached. That's why my grappling and wrestling is terrible. That's fair. Yeah, once you get to a certain point in your career, you just have to start traveling more. Jan has pillow hands. His last KO was a head kick over Faber. I wouldn't say he has pillow hands, but I do get what you're saying. You've definitely trained with Bilal. I will confirm I've not done that. I know it's relevant, but I think having an athletic background can be just as good when starting MMA. Only specific athletic backgrounds, but I do to some degree agree. What are your thoughts on Sanda? Is it a form of Chinese kickboxing with takedowns and trips? It's Muslim Selikov's background. Yeah, so Sanda is viable as a base, for sure. Did you train with Jamal Hill? No. Were you confident to win this weekend out of all the fights? I assume you're most confident? I'm probably most confident in Jenkins. What has been your biggest underdog you bet on recently? Let's see. I mean, last week it was Rafa Garcia. A week before that, nothing particularly interesting. I mean, the biggest underdog I could think of off the bat was it's Fernandez against Guram. Do you think MMA fans would fare better than most people with no training in a street fight? Yeah, because some things you can just kind of understand how to try. So, like, could I imagine a fan could, like, shoot a sloppy double leg? Like, yeah, it's possible. I will go to Brazil a few years later to train fair. I think Jimmy Crute sucks and will lose, but yet people are betting heavy on him. I can understand criticizing Crute, but, like, what is his opponent good at? I think Crute is a little bit underrated because of some of his performances not being great, to say the least. But, like, we're talking about someone who has no wins in the UFC, who got taken down by a kickboxer multiple times, and just hasn't looked good at anything. Who do you favor between Khalil and Azamat? I picked and bet Azamat before it got cancelled. Straying from the algo Oracle hasn't learned fair. What are your thoughts on Lopez beating Silva and Lopez's chances against Movsar and Murphy? I think again it was a low percentage outcome. I didn't really see that many improvements in Lopez, but it is what it is. He'll always have chances to beat people like Movsar and Murphy who aren't going to finish him. I'd probably pick him against Murphy, and I'd probably not pick him against Evloev. Fernandez versus Guram was a good one, thanks. Does Bogdan Guskov have potential to be elite? I have not seen it, if he does. My brother is a big MMA fan, he can't fight, I'm trying to get him to train, fair? Have you ever been knocked out in sparring, and if you did, how did you recover? No, I have not, personally. Volkov winning by decision was my biggest underdog, almost hit fair. Yeah, that would have been, that I can imagine that was really annoying for people who bet that. My biggest underdog bet that almost won was Reyes by decision against Jones. That one still annoys me. I've never trained, but I've been watching for almost 10 years. I think I'd do okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as you stick to the basics and don't try to do anything crazy, you'll have a better understanding of, like, someone who hasn't even watched in a street fight. I think Eljo can probably submit Lopez. I think it would be interesting to see what happened on the ground there. Talk about your first sparring session or round. I don't remember, it was so long ago. We're all rooting for Reyes, yes, agreed. Who did you pick between Conor and Khabib? I did not make a prediction for that one. I was a bit before I, like, regularly predicted stuff, to say the least. The other part about why the UFC take also because they have no real filter to who they sign. They'll blatantly not sign the better fighters while keeping fighters too long. Yeah, it's getting annoying because there are good fighters in the world that they should sign. I just don't know if they don't want to pay for them or what the deal is. Sucks you can't compete because you have a lot of knowledge that would give you a big advantage. Yeah, it is unfortunate. You don't remember the sparring wars with Bilal gone to your head. Favorite personal techniques? Can you roughly describe your style? I mean, I started as a karate stylist. I'm also a southpaw, so people are of course going to make the McGregor comparisons, but when I was learning, it was actually pre-McGregor that I got my karate base, so it had nothing to do with him. I'm kind of a pressure karate striker. What country or region has the best pure grappling? I mean, still Brazil, probably. Thoughts on Joe Piper being outside your house? He sends the comments from last stream. Why can't you compete? I have certain medical issues that make it kind of impossible now. Conor versus Wonderboy would have been fun. Sure, it would have. What do you think about John Silva versus Diego Lopez? I was personally picking Diego by round 3 KO. I think that John showed why he should have won the fight, and also showed that he needs to definitely grow maturely, to say the least, in terms of his understanding of his emotions and lack of of losing control, or whatever you want to call it. Did you know Shea is a Taekwondo prodigy? No comments, I guess. Prime Connor or Woodley? Probably Prime Connor. I think Woodley was a little bit too reliant on the overhand. It was counterable. John is a man-child. He's definitely emotional, but I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. Dream matchups right now? Topuria Islam, I guess. Does Hamzat beat Ankalaev at 205? Yeah, I'd pick him too. You sound black. I will confirm I'm not black, I will say that much. I'm not going to dox my race, but I'm not black. John or Jose Aldo? That's a tough one. If we're saying prime Jose Aldo versus the John we saw in last fight, I think Aldo definitely would have a chance to catch him at something. Thanks for the stream and the great insight. No problem. Have a good one. Thank you for coming. I think if Conor fought Khabib after Eddie, I think he could have won. It was very possible. I had an idea Diego would catch John like he caught Youssef, and his takedowns would be similar to how Alexa caught down Shevchenko. I mean, I don't think that necessarily panned out. I mean, the Shevchenko comparison, yes, but the Youssef one didn't really happen. Shavkat versus Iliam dream fight, that's fair. What's your thoughts on Sukyan Ko, guy who beat Oban Elliott? We need to see more, but I am excited for his next fight. He looks very well-rounded. He has a very interesting style with how he stands and throws. We know Topuria KO is Islam. Very likely, but I do want to see it confirmed. Who's a nightmare matchup for Reyes? I mean, it's kind of Yuri, because Yuri and Jan were just such bad matchups for Reyes that it gave people a much worse impression than it should have. Can you break down Hamza versus Ankalaev? Okay, so Ankalaev is just way too flat-footed. So I think he would just get baited like into raising his guard because it's not hard to get him to do it, and then just get taken down and subbed in like 2 minutes. Any fighters have triple champ potential? Not really, to be honest. Oh, I mean, I guess Topuria might. Other than Topuria, I don't think there's really much a chance. Hamza versus Islam, who wins? If it happened at 170, hypothetically, I would say Islam. If it happened at 185, probably Hamzat, but maybe Islam. I have nightmares of Mavzar becoming champion, fair. Although I think Ilya beats everyone at 155, I do have a slightly weird feeling Arman can beat him badly. I don't think Arman has any chance against Ilya, not gonna lie. Because Arman's striking defense is just so questionable, especially to hooks, that I think he'd get put out with a left hook, like, very quickly. Still sad about Pico. What should have he done against Murphy to win or possibly finish him? Pico needs to have more educated pressure, not blind pressure. Pressure is good. Like, those types of styles can break people. But he needs to, like, get a little bit more nuance in how he applies it. Ankalaev is very mid-wrestling. Yes, he does. And Choja has quadruple champ potential. Very valid. My thoughts on Steve Garcia. I saw some people think he fights like Tony. I like his style a lot. I wouldn't compare his style to Tony at all, but I do enjoy his style. If he can shore up the defense a little bit, he's definitely has potential to be top 5 in my opinion. But he definitely needs to do that because he is very vulnerable in the pocket. He's just gotten away with it because he hits so hard. But like, he has gotten punished and dropped for it a few times. So he needs to shore up his defense a little bit. But if he can do that, he could definitely go pretty far. I'm not gonna lie, that spinning elbow has Murphy talking like he's 2024 Alex Pereira. Fair. You gotta have a Bilal type of chin in order to pressure people. I mean, you can not have a Bilal chin to pressure people. You just have to be very careful with where your guard is, and like you have to understand what they're throwing, how they're gonna react to what you're throwing, etc. I thought it was a fluke KO at first, but watching the fight again, Pico basically telegraphed where he was going. Yeah, Pico got very predictable. That was not a fluke. Like, Murphy definitely set that one up. Bro is live as I go to school. What time zone are you in? Do you think Payton makes it to top 5 after his Felipe Lima performance? Any weakness in his game? Talbot's striking defense is just still not great. So I would need to see massive improvements from him there to think he has a chance. Pico would have slaughtered Mobzar low-key. It's possible. 7-16 in Italy. Oh, gotcha. Do you think John Silva fight was a fluke? Yeah, I think it's a low probability outcome, let's put it that way. Pico thought he was a TJ. Fair. Bilal has done steroids. Look at his head growth and physique since he debuted in the UFC. Yeah, I mean, from what we've seen, it seems likely. Alright, I am probably going to call it here. I'm starting to lose my voice again. I'll definitely need to stream more to build up the tolerance of how long I can stream. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you guys being here. Once again, if you want betting help, please do click on the link in the bio. Feel free to DM me with questions. Hope you guys all have a good night, and enjoy this event as much as you can. We're all the crazy ones who are going to watch this event despite it having zero name value whatsoever. Alright, have a good one, guys.